Hi, Richard. Welcome to the Power Talk show powered by Business Talks Weekly. Thank you so much for accepting our invitation and joining our channel today. Before we dive into our conversation, can you walk through us with a bit of your professional background and what led you to enter in the marketing space?
Sure. Firstly, Navin, thank you for the invite, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. So thank you. I've had, goodness me, about 20 years experience in marketing. And when people think about marketing, they have to think about communications, but I've also been involved in what I call the marketing you cannot see, pricing, how we position ourselves, who we're targeting, the level of profitability we need, how we distribute products, the full marketing mix. And I work for very large companies such as GE, so General Electric in the US. Also worked for some businesses in Australia, and now I'm in the UK. So I've had a sort of global experience, which has been terrific. And I did that for about 20 years, and then I had a lot of much smaller businesses, scale up, start up, come to me and say, "Can you help with the marketing?" So for the last goodness me, 18 months, I've been helping businesses scale up with their marketing. I also do some mentoring of CMOs. Uh, I do some business advisory, which is not about marketing necessarily, but about how business is supposed to grow. And last but not least, I do some teaching at Cambridge. So I'm busy these days.
Wonderful to be busy. Richard, can you tell us, there are different aspects to marketing, like there's account based marketing, performance
Mm.
marketing, social media, affiliate. What kind of services are you mostly focused on?
Well, I run this very small business called Sophera, Sophera Marketing, and you can find me at sopheramarketing.co.uk. And I have a sort of full list of services there. But you're absolutely right to answer your question. What does marketing mean and the different aspects? I tend to focus on SME, so small and medium sized businesses, and they normally fall into sort of two categories. Is we know we need to do some marketing, but we have no idea where to start, how to do it, who we're supposed to be talking to, what our messaging is supposed to be like. So that's the messaging side and the strategy side, and then a little bit of implementation. So wherever that leads us to, whether it be to your point, affiliate marketing or pay per click or whatever it may be. There's, as you know, many channels. So that's sort of part one. And then I also work with businesses who are probably a little bit further down the line. They've done some marketing. Maybe they have a marketeer working for them, but it's not really working. They don't have the processes in place. And one of the most frequent things that I hear is, "I'm spending money. Where's it going? What's it bringing in? How do I know it's successful?"
Yeah.
And then also to your point, you're absolutely right. You have things like account-based marketing, and a lot of people sort of focus on the end of that. But I think it's about the beginning. And again, who are we targeting? What are we offering these people? What content can we provide that is remarkable, that is insightful, that is interesting? Because I think we're in a world where we have a lot of content, but a lot of it is very similar. So how I help businesses stand out and write stuff that is really valuable to their potential target market.
Understood. Basically, you are providing all the services in different dimensions and chunks. So, Richard, how would you describe how has marketing changed over the few
Mm.
years? Because and with new tech coming into
Yeah.
the picture, AI coming into the picture, what kind of changes are you seeing?
It's a really good question. When I started, we would do an advert in a newspaper and we'd have a code at the bottom of it. And we would say to the person, "Please ring this number. And when you do, quote this code." And we would write down manually how many people have quoted the code and then say, "Okay, 7 people rang up today and they all quoted the code." Right? So that was basically your measurement. And if you're a little bit more sophisticated, you'd sort of follow that through. Now, clearly, we have enormous amounts of, sort of measurement in place. My challenge of that sometimes is we're measuring what's happening, but we're not measuring the incrementality. So, for example, if, and I was debating this with someone on LinkedIn the other day, but if, for example, we do a pay per click campaign and I type in the name of your organization in the bin, right? And you sponsor that and they click on the sponsored ad, I have a question. Are we buying that customer for a very cheap price because of branded based on Google is quite cheap,
Yeah.
relatively cheap? Or would that person, given they were searching for our name, have found us anyway and were looking for us? And therefore, that's not an incremental addition. So I'm very big on marketing evolving now that we can measure a lot more, not everything. But I think the attribution, i.e., what channel do you put it down to, is still something we haven't got particularly right in marketing. There's often people who say, oh, it's whatever, last click. Well, even that word click would suggest it has to be digital attribution. But what happens, Navin, if you say to me, Richard, last time I was in London, I went to this amazing restaurant, have a look at it. Okay. So I go in, I check out this restaurant, I click and I book. When they're looking at it, they think we acquired Richard through the web. Well, they didn't acquire me through the web. They acquired me in the because you told me about it.
Yes,
So we've
absolutely.
got a lot to work on to really understand that. And at the moment, I think we're not doing a very sort of good job at that. So we've evolved, but we need to evolve more. And then you ask about AI. Look, there's various revolutions that come in every X amount of years. We have the industrial revolution, we have technology with the internet, with etc. And now we have AI. And I use the word revolution because I think that's what it's going to be. At the moment, I was listening to Mark Zuckerberg yesterday. He did a conference, and he was saying, these enormous valuations, right, of the tech businesses, Microsoft,
Yes.
Nvidia, all these kind of people. Is that sustainable? And I think Mark was right to say, even if it's not sustainable, we're still going to be using all this stuff. It may be overhyped, but it's still coming.
Yes.
And I use an example in the medical world to try and explain this. And I said, look, if you come to me and you say you need knee surgery, on the back of my mind are all the people at the surgeon I've done knee surgery for. Maybe it's 100 people. And then I use that knowledge to operate on you. Now imagine if AI was driving that. They could pick up from knee surgery from anywhere in the world, learn the lessons, and say, this is exactly what Naveen needs, and I'll do it for him. So it's coming. And I think we're only very the beginning of it. We're messing around on ChatGPT and thinking this is it. This is not it. So it's very interesting to see what will come of it. My advice to anyone in the marketing world or the business world is don't be scared of this, embrace it. Because actually there's a lot of things you can use for yourself. There's a lot of ways you can increase your business, but let's not pretend it's not happening. And so go out there, learn about it, play around with it, use your imagination, think what can happen. And there's no reason, in my opinion, for example, if you're a B2B business and you have to process accounts, I'm not sure why you need, 20 people processing the accounts. Possibly AI will do that for you. That doesn't take away the human need. Look at it, check it, confirm it, but it means the two are now working together. And I think that's where we need to be.
Absolutely. That's an interesting way to look at it. And as you mentioned about PPC and AI, there's one more aspect like the organic growth and generative AI, of the search engines making you rank higher when you
Yeah.
search in AI platforms. How would that evolve and how would that help?
Well, I think what we're seeing is an enormous rise in people searching via AI.
Yes.
And if you're not there via AI, then you've got a bit of a problem because that's how you have to go where your customers are going. And if customers are going with AI, you need to be there. So I have no doubt that we're going to have a plethora of companies coming out and saying, I can get you on the AI, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, whatever one you want to name, I'll get you there. So that will come. But I will say this 10 years ago, I would say to people the best way to get top of the searches is to write content, is to be interesting, be remarkable, see it from your customer's point of view, do it regularly. Don't try and sell stuff, just talk about the industry and be a thought leader. I don't mind whether that's via Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity. They all want to give accurate answers because otherwise the platforms don't work. And I don't think those basic principles will change. If we do this again, and hopefully we'll in 10 years' time, we might be a little bit grayer, we might be a little bit older, but those basic principles will still be the same. So I wouldn't try and fix the system. I would try and concentrate on any business of being interesting, getting content out there, giving stuff that's valuable for people, being a thought leader. That's the greatest advice I can give you. And the rest will take care of itself.
Makes sense. Absolutely. Richard, can you share with us a story or a campaign of a success that, a brand or a product tied up with you and, through a campaign or through marketing activity, they increased the sales or they saw a spike in the performance?
Yeah, we did a campaign in one of the businesses that I was advising, and they were doing a lot of pay per click. The problem is they weren't really very well known. So the problem with doing pay per click when you're not very well known is very few people are searching for your brand, which is a cheap way of doing it, and you're now competing against everyone else for the organic. And that's really, really expensive because you're not well known. Google don't place you very highly. You're maybe the fifth advert out of six. It's very expensive. So what's the way around that? The way around that for me was we did very, very targeted television campaigns. And the reason we did television campaigns was to build awareness. I still think TV, which has a lot of criticism, a lot of people saying no one watches it anymore, but it's about where your audience are. And we had an older audience who still quite like their news at 6 o'clock. So at 6 o'clock, we were out there on TV advertising. And then what we saw was a lot of people going onto Google and typing our brand name because they'd seen the advert relevant to them. Now, 2 points to make. This would come back to my attribution point. If you're an accountant looking at a spreadsheet, as they love to do, they're going to go, the search is really successful. But it wasn't the search that was driving it. It was the TV that was driving the awareness. And then you see the spike. Then people type your name in. Then you become more relevant. Then Google start liking you a lot more and you naturally go up the ranking. So I use this as a success story because instead of paying a really, really high cost of acquisition, suddenly our cost of acquisition comes down because those search costs, rather than being £20 every time someone clicks, are 25p. And it's very interesting of how those two channels work together. And I always say it's like when the magic happens. You have channels that work together. If you want to build awareness, I wouldn't do a lot of PPC. I would do PR, television, awareness, content. If you want the people in the market now, then you want to do your PPC and you want to get involved with the people ready to buy those decisions. But everything plays off each other. It's not, I used to have a CFO that said, well, what's the best channel? And I said, it doesn't work like that. Think of it like an orchestra. If you were watching an orchestra playing and I said to you, what's the most impactful instrument? You're going to say it doesn't work like that because one instrument plays, another one comes in, and it all works as one. That's the same with.
Makes sense. So it's very, very important to understand the channel where your target audience is, right?
Correct. And how also one channel plays off another channel that plays off. Depends what I always start when I go into businesses, the first thing I normally do is say, could you just stop spending any money? Stop. We're going to take 5 steps backwards and we're going to understand, we're going to do a bit of diagnosis work in the business and the market. Then we're going to build a proper strategy and then you can do your tactics. But if you rush your tactics first and you just choose your channels without beginning those other two parts, I think you're going to find you're making a lot of expensive mistakes.
Yeah, makes sense. Richard, what do you think would be the biggest challenge marketeers might face in the near future, 3 to 5 years? How
Yeah.
should they position themselves, or what kind of creative changes or thought process changes they should put into their marketing aspect?
Well, I don't want to repeat myself, but definitely embrace AI because that's coming. And it will be the people who know how to use AI who will have the most prosperous futures. I don't think AI is going to replace people, but you'll need to know how to use it to do your job.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's number one. The second thing, and I don't think we're very good at this as marketeers, so I'm going to bang the drum a little bit, and I talk about it a lot when I teach at Cambridge, is we have to understand the financial impact we're making. If you ever go into a boardroom and you talk about brand awareness, brand equity, I don't know, all these marketing jargon terms that we love to segmentation, positioning that we love to talk about between us, I guarantee what happens is in the boardroom, everyone nods at you. And then the minute you leave, they say, okay, now let the grown up talk, right?
Yeah.
And you can never recover from it. Please don't do that. If you go into the boardroom and you don't talk about that kind of stuff, but you talk about revenue, gross profit, net profit, customer lifetime value, customer acquisition costs, you're going to be listened to by everyone in there, and they're going to say, wow, I've never heard of a marketer talk like this before. Your route to success is understand the financials that drive the business. The other thing is, when you speak to your CMO or your CEO, whether it's a company of 5 people, a company of 50,000, ask them one question: what keeps you up at night? And they'll tell you. And then try and solve that problem. And if you
Yeah.
can solve that problem, you're a hero. So, the future belongs to people that take problems away from the senior people, manage them, and try and resolve them. And then the future is yours.
Wow, that's
That's
some
my
great advice, actually.
ask
Wonderful.
people, what
Yeah.
keeps you up at night and how can I solve it? And then go and try and solve it.
Absolutely. Makes sense. Makes absolute sense. Richard, what would you see? How would you see the balance basically? The organic aspect and the paid aspect, which is going to be the most useful growth or, help in scalability for any brand or product.
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. I'm always going to say organic because you don't have to pay for it. Um, but in some ways you do. For example, we had a competitor when I was in the remittance industry. And this competitor was big, and they had 30, 40, 50 people at that time working on the SEO. So they're always top of everything. So on the one hand, you could say, well, we're not paying for it, but you are. You're paying 50 people every day to do it. So there's always a cost somewhere. But if you can become known organically, or maybe even paid, but as that thought leader, if you can be the person who is leading the industry to the next element, if you could be in marketing and you could lead that AI discussion. Where's AI taking marketing? Where's AI taking the way we work and we talk to each other and we interact? What are the positives about AI in the next 5 years, and what are the really things we should look out for that's sort of negative? How do we ensure we keep that human touch within a business and keep the culture going? Yeah, I just named 5 topics there that no one has the answer to. Now, depending what industry you're in, those questions are going to be, for me, it's about the marketing side and the business side. For someone else, it's about the HR and the culture. For someone else, it's about how we measure finance. So be the thought leader. And if you can do that organically and get known for it, that's fine. Now, then you can pay. If you need to be paid, if you need to pay to get into top publications where 100,000 people see your views, pay for it. But make sure your views are interesting and they're not salesy. All you've got to put, look, you and I have done it. I go on LinkedIn, I read content, and I think it's really interesting. I'm going to follow that person. It's not rocket science,
Yeah,
but the
absolutely.
content has to be really interesting. Or I see content that's really dull, and I think I'm not going within a million miles of that person. Or I see people trying to sell me stuff, and I said I'm not going within a million miles of that. But the person who writes the content is building the trust with me, so that when they say, "Hey, I can help you in 2 years' time," I think this person really knows what they're talking about. So I don't think it's organic or paid. I think it's organic and paid, but get it right what you're promoting. Because if you're just doing a list of product features, I'm sorry to say, no one's very interested in you.
To your point, it should also add value to it, right? Like I am reading something, and if I see the value, I'll definitely follow that person or the brand because it might change the way I think or way I feel certain aspects to it, right?
100%. And I'll give you an example. And anyone listening to this, if they can drop me a message on LinkedIn or via the website, I've done a free guide to digital marketing for SMEs. It's like 10, 20 pages. I want people to understand how to do it and be good at it and enjoy it. So that's just another example. My target market tends to be SMEs. Therefore, I want to produce something that's valuable to them. I'm not trying to sell myself. I'm just saying, here, don't take it and make do. And then the return of that, the exchange, is that if they need my help in 6, 9, 12 months' time, they think, oh, I know a guy who seems to know what he's talking about. I'll go and talk to him. So it's an exchange, but I'm not selling anything with it. I'm literally saying to anyone listening to this, I don't know if you can put it in the show notes, email me, him with me, and just say, can I have it? And I'll send it.
Definitely, and I'll add the link in my description as well on the show notes.
Perfect.
One final question, Richard. I want to understand from you which has been your most favorite campaign by any product or by any company so far.
I tell you, when I was a few years ago, I was at MoneyGram and we used to sponsor the cricket, the ICC cricket, which is very big, obviously in South Asia, and that was a sort of key market for us. And I was trying to work out how can we position our sponsorship in a positive way. And we got a guy called Alex Stewart, who used to many years ago captain England at cricket. And we said to any school in the country, if you tell us why this should be your school, we'll bring Alec round and he can either do a sort of cricket session, or he can open a building, or he can do a Q&A, whatever you want. But in 1 hour, he's yours. And we went to 4 schools in the end around the Birmingham area. And these were really difficult, tough schools. And watching a former England cricket captain, he played for England 100 times, come in to see it, to show them how to play cricket, you just see people's faces light up. And in the end, that's what it's all about. I think if I go back, and it's also successful because then people have a very good view of your business and they want to use you because they want to support you because they see what you're doing in the community. So for a number of reasons, one, it just like literally 1,000 kids had the best day they've ever had. Parents were coming, this was a really big thing, and that's brilliant. And then secondly, obviously from a company point of view, we gained a lot of new followers and admirers, so a bit of a win-win.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Thank you so much for joining our channel, a podcast today. It was a very delightful and insightful conversation.
Likewise, and as I said at the beginning, thank you so much for the invite. It was really a pleasure.
Thank you.